Good day. This is Terry Difazio, and you're watching Dial It Up. Today on our show, we have Tyler Tinker from Pride Fitness. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
Where is your facility located? Because I've heard a lot about Pride Fitness, but I've never actually been there.
Yeah, so we're at 108 John Taplin Road in Derby, so about a mile past the Derby Village store on 111, a couple warehouse buildings out in that way. Diamond in the rough.
Okay. And how long have you been there?
Been there for just over a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Now, you took that over from somebody, didn't you?
Took it over from Ben's boot camp.
Okay.
Yeah, in July of 14.
Ben was in here many, many years ago.
Okay.
Oh gosh, it has to be at least 5 or 6 years ago when he was in here. He cut some promo or something like that.
Yep.
Now, I know the differences, but I'm going to ask you so you can tell our viewing audience.
Sure.
What is the difference between powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting?
So it's kind of a catch-22 because powerlifting, there's 3 lifts,
Right.
squat, bench, and deadlift, and those are more based on your strength, even though they're called the power lifts, whereas Olympic lifting is actually based off your power and your explosiveness. So who knows why they were called that, whereas Olympic lifting is clean and jerk and snatch.
Right.
So more of an athletic overall total body movement, whereas those power lifts are more isolated.
Right. As a matter of fact, at one point in time, way before you were born, there was even a clean and press.
Yes.
And they did away with it because nobody could really
Right.
do the technique correctly. The guys were butchering it really bad.
Right.
So was there, how long have you been into fitness per se?
All right, so basically one of the biggest reasons why I got into fitness is because of professional wrestling.
Oh, okay.
That was a huge interest of mine ever since a little kid. I started training when I was 17 for Killer Kowalski's school down in North Andover, Mass. So that was kind of a dual kind of passion. It's like, well, if I'm going to be a wrestler, I need to increase my athleticism, weight lift, and just obviously look the part, but with a skill set. So it was about probably late high school when I really got into fitness, and then it was my sophomore year in college when I became an exercise science major and decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Oh, good. Where'd you go to college?
Linden State.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
My wife graduated there as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the adult degree program thing.
Okay.
I went to Johnson State. She
Yep.
went to Linden State about
Yep.
the same time. And so was it Killer Kowalski who inspired you to do this, or was it somebody else?
I mean, a lot of just growing up in the 90s, the Attitude Era, as they call it, and WWF, WCW, going head-to-head. I mean, just to be a 10-year-old kid during that time, I mean, what better time to have a childhood for professional wrestling? And so just seeing, everyone's The Rock and the Hardy Boys and everything going back and forth. So Killer Kowalski was obviously a world-famous renowned wrestler, and he opened up a school in North Andover, Mass, later called Chaotic Training Center, which is now called the New England School of Pro Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
So it was the best, one of the best schools, if not the best school in the country to date. And I used to drive there 3 hours every Saturday morning and train there every week. So
I had somebody on this show a few years ago who actually wrestled against him, and that was Paul Vachon.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know what has happened to Paul, but I know his brother passed away a few years ago.
Met them a few times at some of the local shows that I've wrestled around here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what exactly is the goal of Pride Fitness?
So my goal of Pride Fitness is just to basically deliver the best strength and conditioning and best fitness instruction that I can deliver. I say it all the time to my clients or my ninjas. if I'm bored, or if they're bored, I'm bored, right? So I always try to constantly find ways to motivate them and just to inspire them, you know, not just about, you know, it can be powerlifting, it can be, you know, nutrition or athletically. There's always something that you can kind of tap into someone's, you know, inner drive and motivate them. And so my goal with the facility is just to obviously expand that the best we can. We brought on our first performance coach, so our first employee for the business this past August, who was a longtime friend of mine. So that's kind of our first step in kind of expanding that, just more personal training, more group training in general, and just I kind of want to see where it can go with the unfortunate of IROC, you know, closing down a few years ago. I think this town was really kind of untapped with something, some sort of, you know, advanced fitness, strength and conditioning, athletic development, just to provide in this community.
And there are a few gyms around.
Yeah, oh, yes. Right, but as far as up in the Derby, Newport side, there's really no one that's a strength and conditioning specialist that has a bachelor's in exercise science, sports nutrition, that is doing that. There's, you know, with Ben and Ben's Boot Camp, XIP in Lindenville, other very similar, like-minded facilities. But as far as up in the Derby, Newport area, it's nice because I got my own pride, so to speak.
No, they're a national chain, though, aren't they? Is Pride Fitness?
No.
No, it isn't? Okay.
No.
Because I think I went on, I put in pridefitness.com and I got something.
Well, if you do Pride, it's Pride Fitness Performance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a Pride Performance Fitness in Santa Monica, California, but there is no other Pride Fitness Performance in the world.
I'm glad you cleared that up because I thought this was part of something bigger. Now, can you explain to our viewers the difference between a split system and a double split system?
In terms of training?
Yeah.
So, I mean, your weekly split just kind of depends on, number one, your goal. Right. So that should kind of determine your weekly split. Whether if you're a weightlifter, you know, a common split is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, upper, lower, or push, pull. You know, it all comes down to the goal of the client or the individual.
Right.
So I guess that kind of depends on what they're seeking for. If they're seeking more strength gain, if it's more of an athletic gain, is it more just overall fitness? It all comes down to, I mean, I don't have very many one split for one of my clients that are the same as the others. There's a few different templates we follow. If someone's like, all right, I just want to be stronger, better moving, more mobility, more flexibility, you know, there's a lot of the same splits that we'll give them for that. But, you know, say one person has had a knee surgery, whereas other one's perfectly optimal health. So they're all custom tailored to the individual.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that was because in years gone by when I was growing up, which was 50s and 60s.
Old school iron.
Very old. And then it wasn't until about the 70s that things actually started changing. Because originally it was you trained 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And that way you had a day off.
Right.
And then along came a guy by the name of, you probably heard of Joe Weider.
Okay.
And those guys. And it was, okay, I'll do a body part or two body parts these days. I'll do different body parts other days.
Yes.
Currently, I'm doing a double split. I do one body part in the morning, a different one in the evening, and then I cycle through that way.
How many days a week?
5.
5, yeah.
Sometimes 6, but usually 5. Can you explain the difference between, say, cycling and stacking exercises?
Versus
sets, reps, things like that.
Again, I guess in terms of power, you know, you stick with a certain rep range and set range, kind of more, you know, higher volume, lesser, higher volume in terms of weight load, and just lesser volume in terms of the amount doing that. Whereas a bodybuilder, in terms of hypertrophy, you know, it's a lot more volume. So these sets of 8 or 10 sets. German volume training is another popular method that I use for people looking to gain muscle mass. It's a 10 by 10 program, 10 sets of 10 reps. So again, it all comes down to what you're looking for. If it's merely strength, 5 by 5 is a popular cycle, or stack, 5 sets, 5 reps. Whereas if you're looking for more just muscle growth or stimulation, you kind of want to stick to more of the 8 to 12, 8 to 15 range. But it's all, like I said, it's all a shade of gray. Everyone's body has a certain response and a certain stimulus to a certain thing. You know, you could go out there and pick up a couple a pair of dumbbells and press it overhead, you may have the same or a different reaction as if I were to do that. Just based on, one, how your spine is built, how your body is built. You're a mesomorph, you're an ectomorph, you're an endomorph. Every kind of exercise determines what you're physiologically and mechanically set up for and what you're ready to do. Yeah, and I know what you mean by endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. There was another way of putting that too. It was called adrenal, pituitary, and thyroid type. Same sort of thing. And notice it's always in threes. Yep. Yeah, and not too many people are actually one or the other exclusively. Right. Usually like shades in between. Absolutely. Yeah. For example, I can gain fat very easily if I'm not careful. Right. People are saying, oh, you must be a mesomorph or adrenal type. However, if I'm not careful with my diet, I can gain, and I just lost 50 pounds over the past year. So tell us, how important is nutrition and what should be involved in a good nutrition program? It's everything. It is. It's everything. I mean, that's one thing. Anyone that I work with one-on-one, I have them track their food for me, like at least a couple days. It's 70%, 70-30 compared to any goal. If you're looking to gain weight, a lot of my high school athletes are looking to get bigger, faster, stronger. Like, how much are you eating? They're eating 1,200 calories a day. That should be their breakfast, right? A lot of guys that are going from high school to a college setting, a lot of their strength coaches or their football coach, they want them to gain weight. And I see so many athletes struggle with that, and they're just going back to the opposite side. And it's not always about just the quantity, but it's the quality of food. I say all the time, quality over quantity in terms of everything. Yeah, because you can't eat junk and expect to gain muscles. You got it. Right? So one of our big programs that we're running right now is called the Pride 9. I also call it the Predator Diet. So we have 9 different foods that we're allowed to eat. They're kind of like our 9 superfoods that we and so just nutrition is everything, just from an aesthetic standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, and just from a general health. It's everything. Now, you have bodybuilders, powerlifters, and Olympic lifters or not? Yeah, all 3. You have all 3 of them? No, yeah. I think that's very impressive. Yep. And do each of them have their own specific types of diets? Absolutely. Okay. What would be, I would know this. I'm wanting you to explain all this. For one thing, I think you can do it better, and you're probably a little more current than I am. Sure. But the diet is extremely important because a powerlifter trying to hoist 900 pounds obviously is going to be different than someone who goes through what they call a bulk and cut diet, which is a bodybuilder. Right. So go ahead. Please explain that to us. Sure. Bodybuilding diets are very 180. Like you said, and there's a phase where you're 12 plus weeks out from your state when you get on stage, where you should be consuming an abundance of carbohydrates or just and fueling them appropriately towards your workout. A couple of the biggest things I say are eat to perform, and food is your fuel, and that's very similar to a bodybuilder like mindset. If you're not eating the right types of food at the right time, you're kind of missing your whole anabolic window. So I'm sure that you've heard of that. Whereas a power lifter, you're towards your meat, you just have to make sure that you're not cutting or trying to lose weight. That's a hard one in terms of high school athletics, whereas if a high schooler is trying to lose weight, but they're still engaged in sports, they still need to eat because they still need to fuel their bodies. Too many of them are trying to cut weight to get into a lower weight class. Right. Well, just take a 16-year-old high school female volleyball player would like to lose, say, 20 or 30 pounds, right? But she's also a very competitive athlete. That's a hard type of balance there because, one, you need to educate these athletes to make sure it's like, all right, you need to have the right type of food, the right quality of food, but not under take in calories, so that way you're not ready for your athletic event, whatever that may be. Right, because what you know and I know is that when people lift weights or do any sort of training, essentially what happens, you go through what's called the catabolic anabolic cycle. Absolutely. So explain what that is, because most people think, oh, you lift weights and you just get big muscle, but it's actually a tear down and a breakup. Absolutely. So the catabolic, when you're lifting weights, you're actually breaking your body down. Exactly. Right. Yes. So you're not building muscle. Same way when you're in the gym running on a treadmill, you're not burning fat while you're doing it. It all happens after. It happens when your body is resting. Rest, recovery, and nutrition is what gets you your goal. You can work out 100%, 110% of max intensity, do all the right things. But I like to say everything comes in threes. If you're not resting, if you're not recovering, if you're not eating right, then those things, it doesn't matter how much you give there. So like the anabolic cycle, as you will, that basically all comes down to immediately following your workout, what type of nutrients, what type of ratio, carbs, the protein, and the amount and the quality that you're putting in your body. Are you getting enough sleep so that way your hormonal level can properly balance out? There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Oh, definitely is. And in your opinion, a person who is training hard, like you say, how much protein in a day should they, in grams, how much protein should they take in a day?
That's, like I said, another gray scale question. There's not one answer that's going to be specifically right for everyone. I say on a training day, you want to have typically protein make up at least 25% to 35% of your macronutrients being carbs, fats, and proteins, right?
Yep,
and especially a physically active individual, you need more of an abundance of amino acids in your bloodstream just for recovery, for cellular repair, for immune system, for everything. So someone that's just, works a 9-to-5 job, sits at a desk, comes home, the USDA, I think, recommends 50 to 65 grams of protein a day based on a 2,000 to 2,500 calorie diet. So would that be a fair statement for what they should take in? Sure. But someone like you or I that trains 2 times, I typically eat around 1 gram per body weight, at least just for maintenance. If I'm looking to go more, if I worked out twice that day and both were, say, on a 10 scale of intensity, then obviously that's going to be more. The more you eat, the more you work out, the more you should consume. If you drove your car 50 miles as opposed to 1 mile, you're going to put more gas in it.
Yeah, and fuel is extremely important. Do different athletes have different pre-contest diets? I know bodybuilders do. Is it the same for powerlifters or Olympic lifters?
For bodybuilders, like I say, getting close to a show, I'm training a woman right now getting ready, and it's just all about timing and making sure that on a day that she's not training, she should be eating differently than a day that she is training. Whereas someone getting ready for an Olympic lifting meet or a powerlifting meet, they just need to eat. They just need to be fueled. They don't need to worry about. They shouldn't be worrying about trying to cut weight or anything unless they're trying to make a certain weight class.
Right.
But they just need to be fueled, so they're ready.
Here was something I read that was interesting just the other day. I used to be big into the old Russian Olympic weightlifters.
Sure.
And one of them that I followed was a guy named David Rigert.
Okay.
He was 5'9" and weighed 198.
Sure.
And his body fat was 7.6%.
Yeah.
And that's what the old Soviet standard was.
Yep.
That's what they considered healthy. Anything less was not good. And of course, if you were super heavyweight, it didn't matter.
Right.
But I guess at one point, to make weight, because they wouldn't let him compete in the weight class he wanted, he dropped below 4%.
Yeah.
Which I think is rather unhealthy.
Well, like I said, everyone I think is a little different in terms of how much fat they can have and still be healthy. But the biggest thing that I think about is that bodybuilding is more aesthetic, whereas powerlifting and Olympic lifting are more athletic.
Yes.
So it's just think of it in the mind of an athlete. You got to eat to perform, right? Whereas bodybuilding, bodybuilders pass out on stage all the time just from their blood sugar being so extremely low and from dehydrating themselves so that they appear leaner and more defined. So those are two different, it's a total 180 as in terms of diet. There are obviously some overlaps just as far as fueling your body properly. But
can you explain to us what BCAAs are?
BCAAs are the branched chain amino acids.
Right.
Right. So you basically have the BCAAs, you have the 3 that you need to live. I always remember that are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Your body has basically essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids, both that you need to make up a complete protein.
Now, do you recommend or do you personally take specific supplements such as, say, creatine?
I have taken creatine before, and I also am. I have recommended it to certain individuals, not mass market or the everyday person that's trying to get in there and lean up, but someone that was really aggressively pursuing a powerlifting or Olympic lifting competition. There are, of course, it's a natural occurring supplement. It occurs in beef, and but in terms of athletic gains, I actually did my senior thesis and research proposal on consumption of creatine, whether one, it was affected more by hypertrophy, so size, or more for strength. Very interesting things.
You said you were training somebody, and I'm not going to give away who that is.
Yeah.
But what specifically is she training for, or what are her specific goals at the moment? Because you said she's coming up on a competition pretty soon.
Yes, in April. So it's a powerlifting meet. She did her first one a couple months ago, and so we're basically training for squat, deadlift, and bench press.
And how often a week does she train?
She has personal training every week on Thursdays, and she also does 3 days of our group training, our signature Pride Fit class, which ranges from strength, conditioning, core mobility. It's kind of just like a hybrid approach to fitness in general. And then she also does our yoga core program, which I instruct. So that one's a really nice, I call that I like to say strength and conditioning is your meat and potatoes, whereas mobility and core strength is your fruits and vegetables. Can you survive off just meats and potatoes? Sure. But if you have the strength and mobility factor, you're just a much more well-rounded, healthier individual. So.
Okay. Can you tell our audience what sort of equipment does your gym have?
We have a lot of toys. So our toy box is pretty crammed right now. We have 50 foot of athletic turf for prowler pushes, sled pushes. We have a couple sleds, thousands and thousands of pounds of free weights, dumbbells, barbells, lots of barbells, bumper plates, squat racks, kettlebells, lots of kettlebells.
Do you use any weightlifting machines?
We have a functional trainer. So it's like a cable tower machine where you adjust the pulley system. That's one of my favorite machines just because it has so many different uses to that. As far as just like isolated machines, if I were to have a larger space, I would probably have, maybe a few of those in there that I think that would give you the most bang for your buck. But for right now, a lot of stuff we do is more functional based, a lot more mobility involved, just lots of space. Climbing rope, we have monkey bars. Outside we have a combat wall, so it's a 10-foot climbing wall. Like the Tough Mudder and the Spartan events are really popular now, so we see a lot of people that are training and getting ready for that.
I know a couple of women who were training for Tough Mudder.
Yes.
And one of them I think moved to Maine, and I don't know what's happened to the other woman. They were both in their 40s at the time.
Yep.
But they probably trained at your place more than likely. Well, all I'll say is one of them is named Lisa and the other one was named Debbie.
Okay.
That's all, and that's all I knew about them, and we got along great. We worked out at Bill Hogan's gym.
Yep.
Like I said, one of them I think has moved to Maine. Now, did you say you were thinking about moving, or not?
Eventually, I just think it's going to exceed the space we have. We just have a little over 2,000 square foot, which is fine for what we're doing right now. But in just terms of getting my second performance coach built up, like right now, if he has. If he's training someone doing a one-on-one session, so sometimes we'll split the hour, like a 5 o'clock spot at night is a popular time to train and do personal training. But another thing that kind of inhibits us is we have a class going on. We're taking up all the space, and then we can't get in, someone else that may want to work privately or semi-privately in there. So eventually I'd like to have a spot that was our training studio, and then another space that was maybe segregated, and that's where the weight room would be with the squat racks, the free weights, and maybe even open that up to a limited open gym membership. So that way someone I'm looking for more dedicated athletes or dedicated weightlifters to come in there, know what they're doing, have a space, know that if they pay for a membership that they're going to, there's only going to be 8 other people in there. They don't have to wait around for a machine.
Yeah, and sometimes if a person is lifting for specific goals and they're doing, for example, a superset or a triset or a quad set, and they're moving from machine to machine.
It's hard.
It's difficult when you've got a whole lot of people around.
You need sticky notes to put them on there and claim them. I'm on this. I'm on this, bro.
So what other things would you do if you get into a new space and you do expand? What specifically would you be looking to do?
Basically what we're doing now, but and expand upon that. There's more that we could do. We would have more space right now. January, February, peak season for the group training classes. Some of the night groups, we've had 18, 20 people in our group, which is too much for what I like to train. I'd rather train 8 to 10 solid people that are dedicated and that have good energy and that want to be there, rather than try to keep an eye on 18 to 20. Right now, I'd say our average group size is 12 to 15. which is still decently large. When we have both of our trainers there, it's nice because we can get around more, but just having more space would give them more freedom of exercise, would create more things that we could do in the space. In terms of, we have our muscle hour class that you'd probably like. It's an Olympic and powerlifting class that we have on Wednesday nights. So that way we could kind of have that in the weight room, so kind of give that its own kind of feel, its own grit to it. And then with our training studio, that kind of keeps it more of like, all right, if someone's in there working one-on-one, they still get that kind of private or semi-private atmosphere.
Yeah, and I'd like to, you have a website.
Yes.
I'm going to post that. Can you tell us what your website is and your telephone number so we can post that here?
It's prodfitnessperformance.com, and number is 802-535-6395.
One thing I read many years ago, I read this quote, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. It says, "One thing is for certain. It has been said that if you lift weights, you'll get muscle-bound, but this other person said, but I say if you lift weights, you are bound to get muscles."
Yeah.
Right. It's going to happen, right?
It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen the more you do it, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Oh, no.
I'm the biggest example of that. I mean, it's just like you have to, in terms of pro wrestling and trying to just pursue whatever is your goal, you got to be thinking about it. It's got to be on your mind. When you're in the kitchen, you got to be cooking your meal based off what your goal is, right? You can't just like, oh, I forgot to eat. Well, then you're not thinking about it enough.
And supplements are important too.
Absolutely.
Vitamins, minerals, things like that.
Yep.
Very, very important also. Is there a specific type of protein you recommend? Because I know that whey seems to be a big one right now.
Whey
protein.
Whey, yeah.
But I've heard other people say that they would rather have a whey casein egg blend.
Sure.
That would work better. What is your opinion of that?
I'm actually affiliated with Optimum Nutrition, which is like the gold standard whey protein. They also make casein. So the protein that I carry, I had a couple jugs in my gym. It wasn't even something never thought I'd get into selling supplements. But it was like, oh, when are you going to start carrying that so I can have it? It's like, well, I practice what I preach, so if someone wants a product that I have and that I believe in and that I've used and trusted for years, then why not carry that and give that to them at a price? Like, I don't charge them shipping or anything on it for it. So but in terms of whey protein, I just look at ingredients. I look at for a whey isolate rather than a concentrate. An isolate is a more purer form of protein.
Yes, I've heard that. And many people don't realize that there is a difference.
Oh yeah, I have people text me. I saw someone text me a picture of their protein powder earlier today. Say, oh, I picked up some, whatever protein powder at the store. So I say, text me a picture of the label and the ingredients. And when the ingredients is 100 things long and half of them you can't pronounce, I'm like, do you think you should be putting that in your body? And then they say, well, no. And it's like, well, the line that that Optimum carries is a natural line. There's 5 or 6 ingredients in it, sweetened with stevia. It's really bland if you're used to something that's really sweet, but like I said, it all comes down to quality and what you put in your body. Whereas, casein compared to a typical whey, if you have, a whey allergy, then egg white protein is, I think, the best suitable replacement for that.
And whey acts a lot quicker, doesn't it?
It does. It's a fast-releasing protein. As in terms of a casein powder, you see a lot of bodybuilders drink casein shakes overnight, or they'll wake up in the middle of the night and they'll have a casein shake that's longer, breaking down more of a molecular strand. This takes longer to break down in the body.
Tyler, I want to tell you, this has been great, and I'm hoping we can do it again.
Sure.
Our time is up, but we haven't even covered half of what we should have.
Oh, we can sit here and chat all day just on nutrition.
And hopefully we can have Kimberly with us next time.
Absolutely.
And I think that would be a heck of a show, too.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure, and like I said, we will have to do this again.
Absolutely.
This is Terry Difazio for Dial It Up, saying we'll see you on the flip side, and have a good day.